later in the week to me than Tuesday, for some reason. And the most amazing thing happened to me at the coffee shop down the street, and I was just thinking about the, well, we haven't started class yet, I'm just chatting, but I was thinking about Master Shantideva and his beautiful lessons to us last week about the real causes of things. And I also recalled a teaching that I had heard a long time ago. This actually dates back to Lord Buddha, but they say that anyone who truly dedicates themselves to the study and to the path and to teaching others does not have to worry about mundane things. You know, I mean, we have to plant the seeds, we have to put the right causes into effect, but there is in Scripture words that say if you really apply yourself to this, you will be looked after. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about all this stuff, and it's such a mundane story, but to me, the minute the young barista came over and did this, I thought, oh my goodness, because here I was cramming to try and at least brush up on what I'm about to talk to you, because I hadn't really had much time. I apologize in advance if today's class is going to be a bit good class to walk in on. You know? I'm usually way more prepared, but so we're going to rely on the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas to just come through this, because I have taught this before. But I was so focused on just being, because it's not me, none of this is me, but just being a clear enough vessel. And like I say, I've been kind of racing around, and today feels like a really long part of the week. But suddenly, you know, so I get my tea, and suddenly there's this young woman in front of me offering me an oatmeal bar. I haven't eaten since noon, and I hadn't even thought about it. But, you know, there she was, and I looked at her and I said, did you know I hadn't eaten? Like, did you know that this is exactly what I wanted? She lit up, she said, no, but here you go. So it was just, you know, it's just a treat that they had at Starbucks that they probably were giving to everybody. Actually, they weren't giving it to everyone else. She specifically walked over to me. And I thought, isn't that interesting? You know, it's just things like that, that you can dismiss it as coincidence, you can dismiss it as random, but I know from these teachings in this practice that there are no accidents, you know? And so it was really, really, really sweet to have that happen. Anyways, just a little by the way story. Welcome, Leonardo. How are you feeling?
I'm still sick, but I'm happy to be here.
Everyone's had the flu, hey? Oh, see, this is what we're after. This is the class. Yeah. Okay, does everyone have opening prayers? Yeah, and there's this here.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I had it, but he was not in agreement.
Did we do them in English last week? Yeah, let's do them in Tibetan. Farah, you want to lead us?
Sure.
Sashi Puki Jukshin Metotran Rirabling Shin Yende Gempadi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwagi Drokun Namdak Shingla Shiparsho Yidom Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niratayami Sange Chudan Soki Choknamla Dangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinyen Kimpe Sunamki Drola Penshir Sange Druparsho Sange Chudan Soki Choknamla Janchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinyen Kimpe Sunamki Drola Penshir Sange Druparsho Sange Chudan Soki Choknamla Janchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinyen Gimpe Sunamki Jola Penchir Sange Druparsho.
The prayers are translated into English, if you were wondering what we just said. And if you were following along with the words, you might have noticed that one word was pronounced a little bit differently. I don't know if they actually wrote it the way. Did they write Jin Suk in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually say Jin Yin instead while we're saying the opening prayers, because we're saying a slightly different word. We're basically saying by the merit that I am achieving by listening, by coming here to learn. I'm actually supposed to say to teach, but I say to learn because I think this whole thing is about learning anyways. Whereas when you're doing it, if you were to use this as an opening prayer in your meditation, say for example on your own cushion, you would then say Jin Sok, because that's part of the, just when you're in a contemplative situation and not in a study situation, in case you were wondering about that word. Okay. And I apologize in advance every class, but my Tibetan is absolutely awful, so my pronunciation is not accurate. Please listen to the audios after class, not before class, to get the correct one from Holy Geshe Michael, because he's fluent. He's fluent in Tibetan, he's fluent in Russian, he's fluent in English. He's getting really fluent in Mandarin, and I suspect he speaks a few other languages too, so. Okay. We are in class 3 of ACI course 11. And ACI course 10, 11, and 12 are all about an incredible book called The Guide to a Bodhisattva's Way of Life, written by Master Shantideva. And we're taking, so each course is 10 classes of listening, of me talking. And if you listen to the audios, which are free online from the original dissertation that Geshe Michael gave back in the 90s, you'll notice that there are 11 audios on every class, because he also always ran a review class. And in the review class, he went over all the questions that would be on your final exam. You don't have to do homework, quizzes, and finals, but these courses are designed with that mechanism in place because we have to hear things at least 3 times for it to sink in. They actually say 7,000, but at least 3. And so if you hear it in class, and if you are inspired to do your homeworks, which I highly recommend, it's really good to do them with someone else. Have a study buddy or meet up as a group, and you can do your homeworks as what we call open book. Open discussion, open book. There's more blankets too if you're cold, okay? There's lots of blankets. And then the quizzes are always based on the homework questions, usually. Although I have to say, as you get deeper into ACI, there's always a trick, like there's always a question that wasn't covered before that gets thrown in. And then the finals are based on the homework. So that's how it usually goes. And the quizzes and finals are closed book, but by the time you get through to the final, you're really getting to the nuggets of the course. The other study method that is traces back to the ancient monasteries is the practice of debate. And I know that when most Westerners hear debate, unless you were a debate champ in public school or high school or whatever it was, most people, when they hear it, get a little nervous. Like they don't want to debate because it sounds like I'm just going to have a big old argument and I don't want to argue. Debate in the classic sense is not about that. Debate in the classic sense is about having this very structured discourse with another person about a question you both have and getting the information you both have and getting to a higher place with it. So it's not about one person being right and another person being wrong. It's about both of you getting to a higher understanding of all of it. They say that one good debate session is like 20 hours of study or something like that. So how we've structured these particular classes this term is that we're going to have 5 classes. So this is class 3. We'll have 2 more. And then the week after that, on Tuesday night, will be a debate practice. And you will get to meet our debate master, Lama John, who will debate you on classes 1 through 5. Actually, he's not going to debate you. He's going to have you debate each other. And other people will be invited to come too to debate. And then we'll pick up again with classes 6 through 10. And then he'll hold another debate session where you will get a chance to debate all the questions on the final exam. So by the time you finish that, you'll be able to write the final exam blindfolded. And we'll start ACI 12, which is the last of the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. So these 3 courses really unpack the 6 main modes of behavior, activities, ways of thinking that are recommended if you are aspiring to be a spiritual warrior, which is what a bodhisattva is. Someone who has realized that there's just too much suffering in the world and it's got to stop. And that you're going to do something about it because you can do something about it. But to do something about it, you have to learn what it is that you need to do, and get there quickly. Get to the point where you can be what Lama Marouz likes to call a helper instead of a helpee. You know, most of us are like, "What about me? Like, what about me? Like, I need the help." But instead, turning us into helpers. But we can't actually be helpers until we've helped ourselves, right? So this is what the book teaches us, are these, and there's six different, they call them perfections, and they go in a certain order, and we are actually on the 3rd perfection in class 3, although we've been on it for a while, and it's the perfection of patience. This chapter in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. Actually, it's not the 3rd chapter because they don't necessarily go in order. The first perfection is actually not explained until the 10th chapter, which is the chapter on dedication. But the perfection of patience is really about not getting angry. That's really what this perfection is about. So for the last couple of classes, we've been given Master Shantideva's explanations in the form of poetry, and we're going to continue today, where you're going to go into just a gentle contemplation pose and close your eyes and listen, and then we'll dissect it. But before we do that, Geshe-la is just an affectionate name for Geshe Michael, but Geshe-la just wants us to make sure we understood last week's class, because that was one of the most important classes, where he explained and really tried to get us to understand where the world comes from, where our reality comes from, where we come from, where anything in our world comes from, because we need to understand that in order to be able to perfect our patience, to be able to even practice the art of being patient. So, do you guys remember we talked about the story about the child who, hears about a car accident, 2 people in a car, and one person lives and one person dies. And he asks his mommy, well, why did the one person die? And the explanation is, well, they were sitting on the left side or the right side of the car, and the other person was sitting on the. Well, why were they sitting on that side? Because they got in that door, and also they didn't put their seatbelt. Well, why didn't they put their seatbelt on? And the questions just keep going until, as children, we learn very quickly not to ask anymore. And at a certain point, the parent gets frustrated because they don't actually have an answer beyond a certain point, right? For the most part. And so Master Shantideva really wanted us to not stop asking why. Like, don't accept societal norms or, just normal education or what your siblings or your parents told you because that's all they were told. That there is actually an answer to the why. And in order to figure that out, he then said, well, let's look at all of our options on why. And you know, there were, last time we talked about 3, right? We talked about how the one is that there's no reason. Like it's just random, right? So that car accident, it was just an accident. There's no explanation for it. It just happened. There's no reason. The second one, and we were using specifically the classic example of 2 ancient Hindu schools, but they both believed in a creator deity, like a creator God type of a being. Someone who was all powerful and all knowing and could create all things, but was not of themselves created. And quite frankly, themselves were unchanging and immovable. That was the second one. And then the third one was kind of like the Big Bang Theory, right? And we talked about how, well, first of all, it can't just be for no reason. Everything has a reason. The whole creator God thing, you actually can't have something that is created, is a changing thing coming from something that's not changing. It's actually impossible. The creator God themselves has to be a changing thing. So that logically doesn't work. And then the whole Big Bang Theory that is again like something coming from nothing. And Master Shantideva was saying everything has a cause. Everything has a cause. We just have to get to what the real cause is. It's interesting because we get a little bit more explanation this time. So let's go through the possibilities. Does like an accident, 2 people in a car, 1 dies? Does that come from nowhere? Is it the will of some sadistic thing? Sadistic, because why would they want you to suffer, right? Was it just an accident? That's the third thing. 4, was it the Big Bang, something totally random? Or 5, was this all perception caused by my past way of thinking? This is the seeds, this is the gardening, this is the cause and effect thing. Am I experiencing something now as a ripening of a seed that I planted a long time ago? And that's the realm of cause and effect. Now, that last one is, we're going to talk more about it today, but it is really the one that is empowering. If you think about it, all the other ones, you have absolutely no power. Like if there was no reason, if it was somebody else that did this to you, if it was in the realm of randomness, if it was any of those other options other than that it's your perception coming from your own mind, you would have no control whatsoever. But the last one, which if you take it to its logical conclusion is a little overwhelming, I am responsible for absolutely everything, like everything in my world. We're talking about the bad stuff as well as the good stuff, right? That's a little heavy. So it's not easy. None of these are easy to live by 100%. But all our teachers say you got to pick one. You got to pick one and you got to stick to it. And if you're a card-carrying Buddhist or an aspiring Buddhist, then you are claiming to believe in cause and effect. You're claiming to believe in seeds. You plant an apple seed, you're not going to get a watermelon, you're going to get an apple tree, right? And if you are, then you got to pick the last one. You got to pick that option. And it's hard because it's definitely not something that we can not believe in just because it's inconvenient. So Geshe just wanted us to be really, really clear on all those arguments about where things really come from. What we say, actually, is that the world comes from us, not at us, and that everything is a ripening of a cause that we planted a long time ago. And the analogy is of an oak tree. Oak trees can be many, many hundreds of feet tall, and they can weigh many, many pounds, like tons even, right? But they all start from a seed that's no bigger than that. So from an acorn, you get this ginormous oak tree. And that is exactly how your karma is. Whatever you're experiencing now, good, bad, or otherwise, is the oak tree. So the acorn that preceded it was much smaller, and we don't know how far back that goes, right? So what Master Shantideva is wanting us to do is to look at anger, because we're in the chapter on patience, from a whole bunch of different angles. You know, he went through the whole thing about why it's illogical to be angry. We went through those. He went through the benefits of not getting angry, right? And the problems of getting angry. And we're going to continue with those ideas now. So we're moving on to what's called Contemplation 13. I haven't been keeping track of the numbers, so I don't know if it actually is 13. I know, but according to the reading, they would all be in there. So this is Contemplation 13. So just get comfortable, put down your pens and papers, and close your eyes. What harm can words really do to us? The mind is not a thing with a body, so it couldn't be overcome by anyone at any point at all. It is due to the fact that we grasp to it that all these many pains can do harm to the body. When someone criticizes me or says something harsh, with their words, their unpleasant sounds can do no physical harm to me. Why is it then, mind, that you feel such fury? Geshe likes to call this contemplation the sticks and stones contemplation. Have you heard that, children's rhyme? Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Yeah. Okay, we're going to practice some Tibetan today. We're going to try. Repeat after me. Say Yi,
Yi,
Ni,
Ni,
Luchen,
Luchen,
Mayembe,
Mayembe,
Sukyang,
Sukyang,
Gang,
Gang,
Duang,
Duang,
Shom,
Shom,
Mi Nu.
Minu.
So the Luchen means has a body. Mayan is it is not. So we're talking about the mind. The mind is something that does not have a body. Okay? Sukyang means, okay, so Tibetan you read backwards actually. So Sukyang means by anybody at all. Gamduang, anywhere at all. Shominu, couldn't overcome it. So the English translation of what you said is, because the mind does not have a body, it cannot be overcome by anyone, anywhere, at all. So we're studying the teachings of Master Shantideva, but we're studying a commentary by Gyaltsab-je. Gyaltsab-je is one of the two spiritual sons of Jetsun Kappa, who is the head of the lineage of the Dalai Lama, the Gelugpa lineage. So that little drawing up there with the three figures, the middle one is Jetsun Kappa, and to the left and right are his two spiritual sons. Gyaltsab-je is his right-hand man, the one on his right, and he's the throne holder, the regent of the seat of Jetsun Kappa. Kedruk-je on his left hand is the master of all the tantric lineage of Jetsun Kappa. So Gyaltsab-je makes the commentary, clarifies that what Master Shantideva is talking about is when you are verbally attacked, when someone is attacking you with their words. Okay? And he's talking specifically about harsh words. So someone attacking you with harsh words means someone is criticizing you, right? How often does that happen? quite a bit if you're in the working world, anyways, So, we're talking about the things that can make us angry. I remember from lesson 2 or 1 that the food for anger is being upset, right? It starts with being off balance and being upset. And then if we buy into our upset, that feeds the anger, and then before you know it, you're out of control. So we're going to the point where this statement is about when someone comes up to you and starts speaking harshly, starts speaking critically. And we like to give the example of the angry boss. That's the poor angry boss. He's always used as the example that we're supposed to practice against, right? And what Master Shantideva and Gyaltsabje are trying to tell us, though, in this phrase, is that the mind and the body are separate. The mind does not have any physical form. The mind is actually, they say, clear and ineffable. You can't actually, we're talking sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Sticks and stones cannot touch your mind. Cannot. You can't cut the mind. You can't bend it, twist it, like physically, because it's not physical. So Master Shantideva's logic is the mind has no it cannot be hurt in that way. It can't bleed. It can't bruise. So if we are upset, that's a choice we make. We choose to feel a certain way. The mind itself isn't something that someone else can touch unless you let them, right? So he's saying, Master Shantideva is saying, why get angry when people say things to you? Because it's not like your mind has a body. It's not like your mind is getting physically punched or broken. So, that sounds logical. It sounds pretty simple. But if you think about it and meditate on patience, you can actually really come to a point where the words can't hurt you because you're dealing with the logic of it. You're dealing with the underlying causes, right? That your mind cannot be touched by another unless you allow it to be. One of the most amazing things I heard, and this was in a documentary about, it was His Holiness the Dalai Lama speaking to one of his monks who had been incarcerated in China and tortured badly for a long, long time. And he was speaking to him after this monk had been released or had made his way to India. And he said to him, was there ever a time when you were afraid while you were captured? And the monk said, there was only one time, and it was when I thought I would lose my compassion for my captors, when I thought I would get angry at my captors. So he's been incarcerated and tortured for all this time, and he was able to hold on to this teaching. He said he almost lost it, but he didn't lose it. Like, that's really, really remarkable. But that's someone who understood that. Now, he was actually being physically tortured, not just words thrown at him, right? But even then, he was choosing to understand the real causes of things and not to be thrown off balance by the appearance of things. That's pretty radical, but anyways, that last little bit was just my commentary because I remembered hearing that, and you could probably even find that conversation on YouTube because it's quite a famous one from His Holiness. Okay, but the point is in this comment that your mind cannot be touched unless you decide or allow it to be. The reason it hurts is because we become we are attached to our idea of me. We're holding on to this. The reason your words can hurt me is because I'm holding on to this idea of a me, right? And, Master Shantideva isn't saying that it doesn't hurt. He's saying that whether or not you get upset about it is your choice. Okay? That your mind is completely independent of your body. Last time we also talked about how mental afflictions you can be influenced by other people's mental afflictions and vice versa. Like if you're unhappy, it can be just like, joy is contagious too. Have you noticed? Laughter is contagious, right? And I love that. Like I actually started this little practice where I walk around with a little smile on my face, just a little one. And I did it purposely. And people would look at me like, do I know you? And they would come walking towards me beaming. I just had a little smile on my face. And I thought, this is really, really cool, as opposed to the alternative where people walk around looking grumpy and then people are ready to pick a fight with you, right? So anyways, Geshe-la mentions that, with the angry boss, sometimes, especially if you've been practicing for a while, it's actually easy to hold on to your patience because you're like, aha, there you are. I get to practice now, right? But it can be harder with your friends. It can be harder with your family. It can be harder with the people really close to you because that mood, that sensitivity can be a bit less obvious than an angry boss marching up to you. So he says you do have to watch your mind. You do have to hold on to your joy whenever you can. And you have a choice. Whether or not you are happy is entirely up to you. So here's the thing, though. The whole thing about cause and effect, remember I said it's a really hard one to stick to because it can be really inconvenient? A lot of times we might feel that karma is unfair. So unfair. And really, karma is a total ecology of energy. It is actually that whole saying, what goes around comes around. It is actually very, very precise and merciless. It doesn't say, oh, you're having a bad day, we'll just suspend the laws of karma for you for the next half hour. Doesn't do that. And nobody planted that except for you. Although you could get mad at the former you that planted it because you didn't know them, but it's still you. So this is the thing, right? Once you set something into motion, there is not the slightest amount of the energy that is lost unless you do the 4 opponent forces. And we've learned about, those of you who've studied karma have learned about the 4 forces of purification. So it's actually not that karma is not fair. Actually, karma is absolutely fair. That's the problem, We actually want to have it play favorites for us every once in a while. But conversely, they say don't ever give up the opportunity to do something kind, to do something nice, no matter how small or no matter how inconvenient. Because that little acorn is going to grow up to be a big oak tree that will be very, very pleasant for you too. Okay? So the opposite is also true. Okay. Let's go to the next contemplation. Geshe-la says this is one of the most important in the entire Bodhisattva Charyavatara. Bodhisattva Charyavatara is Sanskrit for the Bodhisattva Guides to the Way of Life. So he says, don't fall asleep. Okay, get into your contemplation pose. Close your eyes. what to do if someone tries to hurt the teaching or a teacher. It is completely wrong for me to feel anger even at those who speak against or try to destroy holy images or shrines, or else the holy Dharma. Since Buddhas and such cannot be hurt, even too, when harm is done to lamas or relatives or the like, and those who are our friends, turn your back on anger by seeing the fact that, as the way before, it all comes from causes. That's a pretty radical and heavy-duty statement, right? Because when you think about it, he's saying to do the absolute opposite to what most nations would do, what most families would do. Like if someone tried to speak badly of your parent or of your child, right? You would get all defensive and protective. Someone bombs your country, you want to go and bomb their country. Like that seems to be the more not only accepted but encouraged reaction, right? Completely wrong. Completely wrong. And you know who also really said this beautifully? Gandhi said this, right? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Yeah. So there's actually two separate contemplations in this statement. One of, is it completely wrong to feel anger at those who speak against or try to destroy holy images, shrines? So he is talking about the desecration of holy objects, and that has happened, especially during not even so holy wars, just during wars, during, humans behaving badly. And often when that happens, it's the cause for the people who had their sacred images destroyed to go back and do the same to the other side, right? Like it's so basically what they're saying here, what Master Shanti Davis is saying here, though, is that it's completely wrong to feel anger because Buddhas and such cannot be hurt. So to understand that, you have to understand what a Buddha is. A Buddha is a completely enlightened, totally enlightened being, right? Totally out of samsara, totally out of suffering. They say the qualities of a Buddha is that they know all things, all time, all space. That they are in a complete state of, right, 24/7, regardless of what anyone else may be going through or feeling. And it's not that they can't see that anyone else is going through suffering, but they themselves are out of that. They're not in the realm of karma anymore, the way we know it. So they actually can't be. It's not possible for a fully enlightened being to be hurt by anything or anyone. So on one hand, right, why feel angry when the object of the attack or the severity actually themselves is beyond being destroyed, is beyond being hurt? Okay, so that's the one component. The other component is the part about your lamas, relatives, and the like. Now, in Tibetan Buddhism, as in most sort of like yogic type of traditions, the teacher is very, very important. In fact, the teacher is the Buddha. So if you truly believe the teacher is the Buddha, then they can't be hurt either, right? On one hand. But really, until we're perfect, we're not going to see our teachers as perfect. That's just the way it is. I will be perfect. No, you will be perfect when I am, is the way it goes. Because you're coming from, how I see you is coming from me anyways. So is your teacher a holy enlightened being, or are they just an ordinary schmuck? Well, I can't prove either way that you are or that you aren't. I can't prove it 100%. Even if you tell me, oh, no, I'm not a Buddha, because if you were, you wouldn't tell me anyways. So it's unprovable. However, if in my heart I felt you were enlightened, then you couldn't be hurt. Therefore, why should I get angry? And if you were an ordinary schmuck, you know what? Then that's karma ripening. So why should I get angry? Now, if there is harm and violence being done, you do have to try and stop it if it's within your capacity, but not because you're protecting the person that's getting the harm done. Yes, you are protecting them, but that's not actually who you're benefiting. If they have the karma to have harm come to them, harm will come to them regardless of whether you try and stop it. It may not come in that form, but it will come because it must ripen, right? But the person you're really protecting is the attacker, is the person doing the harm, if you stop that violence in that moment, right? Okay. So, should you? Absolutely. Either way, if it's within your capacity. But while you're doing it, you must not get angry. You must not be holding anger against any of the parties involved, right? And that's what that statement is implying. Geshe goes on to give a beautiful dissertation at this point about the three jewels, about the three ultimate jewels. The Buddha, because you know at the beginning of class we pay homage, we pay offerings to the Buddha, the Dharma. We go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, right? What we're really going for refuge for protection for, is the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, the Sangha jewel. And that's why this place is called the Three Jewels, because that's what we're trying to remember all the time. And really, the common denominator in all of those three things is emptiness. We're going for refuge in the emptiness of the Buddha, which is the same as the emptiness in you, which is that part of you that is able to and will become a Buddha. You are going for refuge to the beings who have seen emptiness directly. That's the Dharma jewel. And then the group of them, the Sangha, are all the beings who have seen emptiness directly. So that's what we're really, really going for refuge for. None of those things. Emptiness isn't something. Emptiness is the absence of self-existence, right? So it's not something that can be hurt. It's something that we need to understand, right? And ultimately see. So that's what that last statement was all about. By the way, with the three jewels, what are the apparent jewels? Just the nominal jewels. The Buddha jewel would be?
Statues,
Yeah.
paintings.
Statues, paintings. Dharma jewel would be?
Sutras.
Yeah, even all the blah blah I'm giving you, the teachings, the scriptures. And the Sangha jewel? I'm sorry, the Sangha, not the jewel.
And nuns and monks. And
Nice ones. Or even just a
Us.
gathering of this. Yeah, us. Studying the Dharma. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So the thing about someone attacking your Lama, the whole thing is that should you try and stop harm when harm appears to be happening? Yes. Should you do it with full knowledge of who you're helping? Yes. But the thing is, you should not do it because you're feeling defensive, or like defensive because defensive is just a form of anger, right? You're feeling that you need to push someone away and protect something else. So it's about understanding the true causes of things, but not letting yourself resort to anger. I want to clarify one thing though. Lamas are very, very, very famous for practicing wrath. You guys know that word, wrath? Which can sound like anger, right? But there's a very big and important difference between wrath and anger. Mothers know wrath. When your child is about to stick their finger in an electric socket or something when it's wet and you're like a block away and you can't, you're going to yell at that child, right? To just stop them in their tracks. And it's not because you hate them in that moment. It's because you have such great love for them that you will do what it takes to protect them, even if it means sounding like you're angry, right? Or maybe even hitting them. It's just, I'm not saying don't hit your kids, but you know what I mean? Like the wrath of a mother is the best thing I can describe as close to being, like a lama will present you with wrath if that's what's needed. Now, from the teacher's side, if you ever have to be wrathful with your students, you will know the difference between wrath and anger, because anger will feel like this. And it will feel like it's you needing to protect something, right? Or you needing to, like it's the you thing again. The wrath, you will be out of your own way. And in fact, you will almost be laughing because you understand the silliness of this whole thing, but that this is what's needed. And you don't care whether they like you or not. Like anger cares whether they like you or not, right? So that's the difference. And actually, there is a time for they say the different modes of a teacher. There's the peaceful, which we all wish and hope for. There's the generous, the powerful, and the wrathful. So it is one of the modes of teaching. Okay. No. And only because I'm off-roading a lot, and it's not part of this class. But you'll hear it again. Don't you worry. Okay, so the Lama. So you can't hurt the three jewels. You just can't. So there's no reason to get angry at people who appear to be doing that. Should you try and stop them? Yes. Should you commit bad karma to stop them? No. Should you get angry at them for any reason? No, because then you're just creating bad karma for yourself, right? Should you feel compassion and try to restrain them if possible? Yes. Should you lay your body down in front of the monastery? Only if you're ready to do that. Master Shantideva always says, don't give away your eyeball if you're not ready, if you're still going to feel pain. Start with carrots and potatoes. There is actually a famous sutra about a high bodhisattva who did give away their eyeballs. So that's where that saying comes from. But don't go there. They start with carrots and potatoes. By the way, the bodhisattva who can do that is beyond feeling pain anymore. So they don't have the karma for it. Okay, Contemplation 15. Assume the position. Suppose that any person derives some kind of joy from praising the qualities of another. Why, my mind, then don't you sing the praises of this person yourself and find the very same joy? The happiness of taking this joy has been admitted by all those who possess high qualities to provide an irreproachable source of happiness. It is also best for gathering others, if instead you say to yourself, but now you will be as happy, and hope against this happiness, then you are denying wages earned and all the like. You will come to fail in both the seen and unseen. This one's a little bit more, what we're kind of skirting around ill will and coveting. Like, happy when other people are unhappy or don't get what they want, and unhappy when they do get what they want. We're kind of dancing around those insidious thoughts, right? So, but what he's saying is that we should always take joy in the happiness of others. By the way, if you rejoice in the good that someone else does, they say you get 10% of the karma. So, all the more reason to feel joy, right? And you know what? Karmically, you're going to get happier in the long run if you're happy for other people. So there's no good reason to not feel happy for other people's successes and getting what they want and all of that. Also, the thing about attracting people to the Dharma, if you're by the way, the proof of the fact that a spiritual practice is working is if you're happier than you were before you were doing the practice. And I'm not just saying, although sometimes after a yoga class you can feel a whole lot happier than you were when you started. I'm talking more about the long term, because you can also feel nauseous after a yoga class if the winds aren't going the right way, right? So, but seriously, the sign of a practice is, are you happier? If you're not, then you're doing something wrong. Like, you need to switch it up, because it's if you're more unhappy after really committing yourself to a practice for a dedicated amount of time, then you got to relook at the practice, okay? So the sign of a good spiritual practice is that you're getting happier. So as you have this happiness, you attract people to you. They can smell it on you. They just know that you're doing something that makes you happier, and they want that too, right? So it's a good thing to have that attitude. If you want to ruin your happiness, then be unhappy about other people's happiness and be happy about other people's pain. If you want to ruin your happiness, go for it. But that would be a very negative incentive, right? So, but let's flip it around. You want to be happy. You want to be blissed out. Then take every opportunity to be happy for others, to take joy for others. Okay. Contemplation 16. We're going to go a little bit quickly because we've got lots of contemplations to go still. And even should your enemies become upset, how then could you feel glad about it? It is not that some kind of harm has come to him or her, all caused by your hopes and wishes. Even should the suffering you wished on them come to pass, what's there to be glad at? And if you say it satisfies me when I see it, what could better ruin you? The iron hooks that is jabbed in us, fishermen of afflictions, is merciless, unbearable. Should it catch me, it is certain that the hell guards keep me captive in the hell realm cauldrons. Okay. You gotta remember this was a monastic teaching, and in the monastery they studied the Vinaya, and in the Vinaya there's a very big chapter on Buddhist cosmology that talks about all the levels of Buddhist hell. Sometimes you think you go to Buddhism so that you don't have to deal with things like God and hell, but guess what? We got many, many gods, and we got lots of layers of hell. Okay, so, anyways, that's what they're referring to, the hell, and we have hell guards too. Hell guards and hell cauldrons, but we're not going into there. This isn't the class on that. What this is talking about is taking joy in the misfortunes of those that you dislike. So, again, how common is that? It's not saying taking joy in the misfortunes of people you like, because we all know that's wrong. But this is taking joy in the misfortunes of those you dislike. Now, that is common, right? Yeah, he got his, right? Like, that's what they're saying, is that we have to stop doing that. Because really, all that's going to do is bring suffering to you. Okay? Karmically, in the long run, if you want to ruin any chance of your future happiness, and here's a sign, as your karma for the good stuff runs out, you will look older, you will look angry, you will be more unhappy, and this is not the result of aging. We always think that aging causes wrinkles. Anger causes wrinkles, okay? So you want a beauty secret? Stop buying all those expensive creams and stuff. Just be joyful. Be joyful for yourself and for others. Stop being angry, and you'll look like your mom. Like, seriously, it's amazing. It's for the people who are watching on Ustream, I'm saying that because there is a mother in this room that looks just as young as her daughter. Okay, Contemplation 17. The world may be full of beggars, but finding someone to do me harm is truly a rare find, since there could never be a person who hurts me in any way at all if I did not tell them first. Suppose without an ounce of effort you come across a treasure chest hidden under your house. You should thus feel grateful for your enemies who aid you in your Bodhisattva practices. Since he and I both bring it about, it is fitting from the outset itself that I devote to him the final result that comes from being patient. He has, in the way described, provided something for me to be patient about. Yeah. Master Shantideva says that people who can push your buttons, finding people that can actually make you feel angry are a very rare opportunity. And that you should cherish these people. They are more rare than homeless or poor people. And the thing is, it's the perfection of patience is not about just being able to bite your tongue and not say anything angry back, or to sit on your hands and not to hit back. That is not the perfection of patience. The perfection of patience is to stop, to have a cessation of your anger, of your ability to feel any anger at all, when all the circumstances are right, in terms of you've got the screaming boss, you've got the person who's potentially causing you grief, right? But despite of all of that, and because of all of that, and you understand where it's all coming from, it's impossible to get angry. That's the perfection of patience. So they say, the yogic term is tapas, they say that it's the highest form of spiritual hardship, to be able to stop your anger in its tracks. Okay? Somebody buzzing?
Yeah, but it's not.
Okay. So here's the thing: as you get better at your practice, perfecting patience, you won't have angry people in your life anymore, or anger-inducing people in your life. And so then, after a while, if you come across one, like if you get this flare-up and you notice it, that's an opportunity for rejoicing. Because it's like, okay, first of all, it's not rejoicing that I still have anger, it's rejoicing that, okay, I caught it, and thank you for letting me destroy this ripening once and for all, right? Because eventually, if you perfect this, no one will be able to make you, there won't be any anger-inducing people at all in your world. That's how you get rid of them, actually, completely. Okay, Contemplation 18, almost done. This is why the able ones describe the field of living beings and the field of the victorious. Many who succeeded in policing them were able in this way to reach the perfection of the ultimate. The qualities of an enlightened one are obtained by means of living beings and the victorious Buddhas alike. Why then do you act this way, refusing to show respect in the way you do for victors? This is apparently a homework question. There's some lines where Master Shantideva points out, if you stop hurting other people, then there will be fewer and fewer people hurting you. Here's the Tibetan. Let's try it. Repeat after me. Ditar,
Ditar,
Parnu,
Parnu,
Majena,
Majena,
Gayang,
Gayang,
Nupa,
Nupa,
Mijedo.
Mijedo.
This means if you stop hurting other people, there won't be anyone left to hurt you. See, if you stop hurting people, you stop planting the seeds, right? To have, and you will hear less and less arguments around you, and you will run into fewer and fewer icky people, and your life will just get sweeter and sweeter. That's the karmic result of that. That's actually the whole point of the secret teachings. And yeah, he's also talking about, right, refusing to show respect in the way you do for the victors. He's talking about treating others the same way you would treat your lamas and Buddhas. my teachers actually put it the other way. You know how actually we should treat everyone around us um, the way that we would treat a Buddha or a High Lama. Um, this just reminds me of the visitor protocol that was in place in the monastery that Ken Rinpoche lived in Howell, New Jersey for many, many years, serving his Lama, Ken Rinpoche. Ken Rinpoche was once the abbot of the Saramay Monastery, and he single-handedly brought the Dalai Lama over in the early days, like before, like now His Holiness is a rock star, right? But back in the day, you know, he couldn't get a visa to the States and all that stuff, and Ken Rinpoche was one of the first to actually bring His Holiness over to North America with his own money, actually. Now, at the Howell, New Jersey monastery, they had a visitor protocol in place. And I don't know exactly what it was, but it would be something like, you know, making sure the place was clean and presentable, and ushering the person in and sitting them down and providing them tea, and making sure certain momos, or these Tibetan dumplings, were ready, and, you know, like that. I'm guessing, but those are the types of things that would be in place. So then His Holiness is coming to town, right? And Geshe-la is like running up to Ken Rinpoche going, you know, is there a special protocol we should be doing? It's His Holiness. And Ken Rinpoche is like, what are you talking about? You have the drill, just do the drill, you know? So whether it was the old man down the road visiting or His Holiness. So it's not that he was treating everybody the same, in the sense of treating His Holiness the same as he would the old man down the road. He was treating the old man down the road the same as if he were the Dalai Lama. Get it? Yeah. That's how we're supposed to behave. Okay? Yeah, it's kind of cool. Okay, last one. Yeah, by the way, that last one was about like not acting preferential just because you think someone's higher, and then or like just, you know, being so perfectly dharmic in front of someone you think is your teacher or are of that level, and then treating those who are your peers or who you think are lesser than you as crap. You know, like that's not cool in any sense of the word, but definitely not if you're planting seeds for a beautiful world, right? Okay, last one, class contemplation. Moreover, what better method could there be to repay the kindness of those who live as friends and never fail and help to attain to an infinite degree than to please all living beings? What this one means is that to serve living beings, sometimes they say all sentient beings, right? Is to please the enlightened ones. The enlightened ones are the Buddhas. By the way, sentient beings are the people in your immediate world. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, the guy that drives the bus, he's your sentient being, you know? They do say that making offerings to enlightened beings is a really quick way to collect good karma, right? If we are trying to repay the kindness of the Buddhas, what do you think is the best way to do that? Yeah?
The Dharma, spreading
Mm-hmm.
teachings.
Mm-hmm. It's even simpler than that. Yeah?
Serving people.
Mm-hmm. And not just serving people, it's simple. Just be good to other beings.
Right.
My religion is kindness, right? It is actually as simple and as difficult as that. Yeah. You know, chocolate is really nice. Flowers are nice. Water is nice. Tea is nice. Cookies are excellent. But what really makes the enlightened beings happy is that you are respecting other beings, that you are being kind to each other, right? That's the ultimate offering, because that is proving your practice. That is living your practice, right? And that's the other thing. Sometimes as Dharma students, we can get really caught up in protecting our practice. Like, must have an hour. You can't talk to me for the first hour because I need to go do this thing, right? And actually, on one hand, it is really good to have a very dedicated boundary tsam around your practice. So don't get me wrong, you should have a dedicated tsam around your practice. But if you're becoming possessive about it and mean to other people if they, invade your tsam and stuff, then that's no practice, right? So it's about, like, if you really are achieving the results of what that practice is bringing you, you will naturally be kinder to others. And that will then give you the karma to be able to do your practice better and more, right? So it's the upward spiral instead of the downward. So they call it lenlun. Say lenlun.
Lenlun.
The ultimate way to repay the kindness of the Buddhas is to be nice to other people. If you want to do something for an enlightened being who worked for millions of years to get enlightened for you, be nice to other people. Respect other people as much as you would the Dalai Lama. And then you are repaying their kindness. That's all. Any questions? By the way, this is actually a really in-depth audio. If you do get the chance to listen, and please do, is class 3 of ACI 11. It's free online on the acidharma.org. I skipped out big chunks of the commentary only because I know many of you have already had we talked quite a bit about the three jewels, the ultimate nominal, and all of that many times in recent classes. So sorry if I skipped over that, but if you listen to the audio, it'll be Geshe gives it beautifully in great detail. So, but that was a lot of contemplation and a lot more lengthy ones this time. So I'm going to stop there. Any other questions? You can ask.
I'm just trying to formulate a question about, I think it has to do with the separation of the physical body and the mind, and the mind not taking on the pain that is inflicted on the physical body, maybe. So then the question is about people that are coming from war, or people that are subject to abuse, to very unfortunate circumstances, that maybe don't have the tools and the awareness. What does Buddhism have as an answer for that? Is it then a practice of letting go, or how does, because that is real pain.
It is, and it's a really good question. And the first point is, as Master Shanti Davis says, it's not that there isn't pain. What he's trying to train us is how we react to pain. So in the case that you're describing, actually there are some very beautiful methods for coming to a place where you can actually do that. Because if you're being, and they say that too, right, that the human existence is the perfect balance of pain and pleasure to actually do this type of study and work. Like if you're in an existence of unremitting pain, you're not going to be able to even begin. Or if you're too blissed out, actually, you're not going to be able to begin. So if you are someone who has suffered, who has had the karma to suffer, now, so from the educated Buddhist looking at that, if someone is being persecuted or tortured or whatever, that is the ripening of past karma. So at a certain level, they are burning it all off. That doesn't mean it's their fault. It just means that they are experiencing the results of their karma. However, that's not something that you can say and have it easily accepted. The common example I've heard of is children who've been abused, because there's a lot of heat and anger around that, right? Like how dare you say that they caused that? Because that's what you're saying, that's the ripening of a cause, right? I'm not saying they caused that in that it's their fault, but it is a ripening, and it is an experience that has to ripen in a certain way. However, back to your question, the tools and what you would then train a child who is experiencing that, first you would get them safe. You would make sure that they are somehow protected. But then in terms of helping them and teaching them, and this is very, very useful for, it's also common in people who have substance abuse problems because they're hurting themselves, right? Repeatedly. And that's a ripening too. So the first thing that they say is useful is to learn to forgive yourself, learn to forgive yourself, and then move on to forgiving those around you, right? So there's the forgiveness. You have to do that, or you have to work on that. And then there's the gratitude. You cultivate those two things, and it's just gratitude for whatever is working for you. And I always say a really good one, I learned this one from my teachers, is that it's really good when you first wake up in the morning. First of all, train yourself to wake up without an alarm. And the secret to that is to go to bed early enough that you will be able to actually wake up without an alarm. And if you mentally set, I have to wake up at 7 o'clock, bet you dollars to donuts, you will wake up at 5 to 7, okay? Like if you have enough sleep, like if you're like me and you get caught on the computer and you're up till 2 a.m., you're not going to wake up at 7 unless you set an alarm. But if I had shut that computer at 10 or 11 and, like a good girl and just like gone to bed, I would have, and I do this, I do actually wake up usually 5 or 10 minutes before my alarm. So when you wake up, I peek at my clock to see if I have 5 or 10 minutes, and then I close my eyes again and I think about all the amazing things that I'm so grateful for. First of all, I woke up. I woke up in a really comfy bed. I woke up in a really comfy bed in a really warm and cozy house. I can smell coffee. It's like, you just start to really think about so gratitude. So even a child who's been hurt, right? If they're in a place where they can start thinking about those things, they can start thinking about the handful of good things that are going on. So those are the two things you do. You develop forgiveness as best you can, and you cultivate gratitude, okay? And then eventually you get to the point of being able to do what's called a loving kindness contemplation, where you start to then expand out beyond yourself. There are 3 very, very, very powerful tools. And actually one of the teachers here, Dee Dee Pointer, teaches those 3 steps in a beautiful series of meditation workshops. But they're really, really useful when we're dealing with really severe issues of trauma.
It's fascinating, the idea. I mean, a lot of the reading that I do and a lot of what you see, it's being talked about is unifying the body and the mind and understanding that there's a dynamic. So what you said just struck me, and I wanted to understand it. So thank you.
Good question. Okay, let's dedicate.
Sashi Tuki Jukshin Metokram Rirabling Shin Yandegen Padi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwagi Rokun Namdak Shinglek Juparsho Idam Guru Ratnamantala Kambiratayami Kewadi Kewukum Sunam Yashe Satsokshi Sunam Yashe Lejunwe Lampad Kuni Toparsho.
just wanted to say one last thing about that. Ultimately, it's about really understanding ourselves where things come from so that we can teach others. Because that is really the only thing that is going to protect anyone. Thank you, everybody.
Zoe and I meet on Saturdays around noon at a tea house on Main Street in New Homer.
Oh yeah.
So if anyone wants to have
Which tea house?
Shakti.
Oh.
It's the best tea house ever.
We love it. Oh, do you really? That's cool. Two of us go there once in a while.
So maybe we should just all exchange. If I get your email, we can just be in touch through email.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's nice. It's just